Look, moving on to another little disaster. Joe Biden met with Anthony Albanese at his home in Delaware at the weekend, and during their meeting, the US president said the quiet part out loud. Hot mics picked up the leader of the free world telling Albanese and Japan's PM an aggressive China was testing the US and its allies.
Yeah, Albanese was meeting with Biden as part of this US administration's final Quad meeting. That's an alliance between Australia, Japan, India and the US that they've been at pains to pretend is not about defending the West against China. So in talking about China's aggression, Biden has let that cat well and truly out of the bag, Caroline.
The first thing that always strikes me with these stories, James, is they know how microphones work, don't they? I mean, they've been around a few as the presidents and leaders of various countries, and yet we see time and time again that they just don't seem to understand that microphones pick up sound. You know, it was only a few weeks ago that Albanese had his own hot mic moment when he was picked up on the sidelines of the Pacific Islands Forum making comments to the department, the US Deputy Secretary of State, saying, oh, let's go halvesies on this Pacific Island initiative that they had. I mean, and then he was upset then when a reporter actually reported that fact. But back to the actual topic at hand, of course, they're concerned about China, and they've just been carrying on with this pretense that the Quad is not actually about containing China and managing its aggression. And now, as you say, cat's out of the bag.
To be honest, I was kind of relieved to hear some straight talk and some honesty from our leaders about the geopolitical situation right now. Do you remember, it was only February last year that a Chinese spy balloon just floated over the US mainland for a couple of weeks, and the Biden administration pretended it wasn't there.
Just casually
they literally just ignored the thing. And I remember watching that thinking, are they aware of what's happening? Do they even care what's happening? So my response was not so much, oh, this was a bad slip up from Joe Biden. I was more relieved that, OK, it's good to know in private. Maybe, just maybe, our leaders actually do know what's going on. And don't forget, here in Australia, I mean, we've got Jim Chalmers going to China this week. But just last week in China, one of their major broadcasters put to air a documentary celebrating a CCP anniversary, and they showed footage of a RAAF aircraft being harassed by a Chinese fighter jet. And in that documentary, they called Australia an enemy. And so it seems like China are very bold about saying what they believe the situation to be. Meanwhile, the West continues to pussyfoot around the situation, pretend like China are not a problem. And that doesn't somehow calm the Chinese down or cause them to behave. It's like the more meek and cowardly we are, the more China just continue to push the issue. And so, as I said, I wasn't that upset to hear some straight talking from our leaders.
Actually, it was the most sense that Joe Biden has made for quite some time, and it was fully by accident, it would seem. I was almost impressed with him actually putting together something that seemed coherent, let alone something that is concerning people in not only the US, of course, but here.
You know, the other funny thing about that is Anthony Albanese, in his press conference, he talked about the fact that he was quite impressed with Joe Biden, that Joe Biden was really across the details and across his brief. I'm not sure Anthony Albanese is the man you want, encouraging you and giving references for your leadership when Anthony Albanese's got spot fires everywhere happening at home.
Didn't the Chinese call him a pretty boy when he was there?
They did,
Maybe it's just used to exchanging flattery.